Alright, welcome human to ETSK Tutorials. So I've already recorded this video once, but the frame rate was bad, so I'm going to attempt to do this again, and if the frame rate is still bad, well, screw it, I guess I don't care. So yes, anyways, this update is going to be all about level design and, well, not the final level design, just the level design that I've done so far. I just wanted to create a test level just to test out the game in, and just to have something that I can put into people's hands, so that instead of just being a room with a couple of robots in it and just a couple of aimless platforms that you can jump to, I decided to create, just a short little, I don't really want to call it an adventure, but I guess a short little sort of adventure, just something that people can play where there's a beginning and an end, so that they can have an idea of what direction this game is going in. So everything that's in here so far is definitely not representative of the final product. It's just supposed to give you an idea of what direction the product is going in, if that makes sense. But basically that means that the game is still very, very early on, and there's a lot to be added and there's a lot to be changed. And what you're seeing right now is completely temporary. This is not going to make it into the final game. This is just a mock-up of the type of thing that you might end up seeing in the final game. And the final game is not going to be cube art the way everything is right now. So yeah, before I get too much farther, I just want to mention at the end of this video, if you want to skip to the end of the video, if you get bored at any point, instead of clicking away, quickly skip to the end of the video, or just check the link in the description below. But I want to get a vote from everybody on the title for this game. So I've come up with two titles, both of them I like equally, and I don't know which one to go with. So I'm going to just leave it up to a vote and see what people like more. So yeah, that'll be at the end of the video, so that you all can have a little bit better of an idea of what this game is going to be about and which title is going to be more fitting. Okay, so before I get too far, let's talk a little bit about the tiny little bits of programming that I've put into the game. I didn't do much programming, most of it has been level design, but this is one bit of programming. So as you can see, there's like an area, a trigger area that I can walk into, and it changes the camera. I use this for two different purposes. For this purpose right here is just to give you a better camera angle for jumping from platform to platform. Now the camera change right here is actually, once I get this switch, which is a placeholder, actually I gotta move my head. As you can see, the elevator has changed. So I put the camera in that place so that you can see what that switch did, because I didn't really put any other indication in the game so far. So yeah, that was one thing, just little trigger zones that when you walk into, it changes the camera position. Another change or addition is these moving platforms. Actually, the surprising thing about the moving platforms is that I actually copy and pasted the code from Prototype Recoil that I made quite a while ago. The moving platform code from Prototype Recoil, which is a 2.5D platformer, actually translated over perfectly to this game as well. So, I mean, that was just a short, I think that was 5 lines of code total. No, not 5 lines. It was I don't know. It wasn't too much code. But anyways, you have infinite health for the sake of this test level. I don't want to call it a demo, because a demo sounds like, this is part of the game, when really this is not part of the game. This is an alpha test level. I think that's the best way to describe it. So yeah, this level, the way it is not going to make it into the final game, and everything is going to be redone, especially the level design. So yeah, the way the level design is right now is it's all cube art. So cube art is not the way that you want your game to be like, at least for the final build of your game. For now, my frame rate's pretty good, especially on this computer. I got about 300-400 frames per second, so it's optimized pretty well. I haven't tested it out on too many computers. That was a weird, like a weird hiccup or something. Anyways, I also tested the game on Ouya, and it runs at a good 30-35 frames per second on Ouya, so it's definitely playable on Ouya. The Ouya version does still need some work. It needs let's see, it needs better controls and just a couple of little fixes here and there. But yeah, the PC version looks better because it has, you know, pixel lights and bump maps and reflection maps, and a little bit wider of a camera angle, and a couple of other things. Oh, real-time shadows. The PC version has real-time shadows. So yeah, the PC version looks better than the Ouya version, but the Ouya version doesn't look too bad. Especially considering the fact that this is all cube level design, which is like the most inefficient way to do your level design is with a bunch of cubes, because with a bunch of cubes you have a bunch of extra jaw calls and a bunch of extra game objects. So the fact that it was able to run at 35 frames per second on Ouya is actually really good. I was really surprised and pleased about that. So yeah, once I do get the Ouya version on the Ouya store, I mean, I'm going to label it as the alpha test level, or whatever I decide to call it. That is going to be available on Ouya for free. You'll just be able to download it just whenever I get it approved into the Ouya store or the Ouya sandbox. For anybody that has an Ouya, you will be able to just download it and play it. So that will be a perk of Ouya, I guess. I don't really know. But yeah, and then the PC version, or the PC Mac Linux version, once it's complete and ready, I'm going to be limiting that a little bit more, just to kind of help build promotion for the Kickstarter, and that's the main reason, actually, just to help build promotion for the Kickstarter. But it will be available for Let's Players, bloggers, video game journalists, video game reviewers, and it's also going to be a reward tier within the Kickstarter. One of the lower reward tiers, of course, because I'm not going to charge people a large amount of money for something that's not really a game. It's a test level at this point. But yeah, this is the end. So it's a kind of an anticlimactic end. But yeah, it's just I'm going to try to figure out something. I don't know if I'm going to try to put any story into this test level. I'm going to definitely put some explanation so that the test level speaks for itself a little bit. Probably just some signs or something that you can read, or just a little bit of dialogue in the main menu. Something like that. Oh, that's another thing I forgot to show off, was the respawn system. So this is definitely a placeholder respawn system. It needs some work, because there's certain situations where, like, I don't know, maybe I'll eventually change it so that maybe like falling damage is what designates whether or not you respawn, but right now it's just trigger areas. So if you jump into the wrong area, you can respawn where you didn't want to. But for the most part, within this test level, it does work pretty well. So if you fall off where you didn't want to fall off, it'll respawn you. Like over here, I'll walk back in. Like this jump you saw me make earlier, like let's say I just didn't make it, I would fall down and respawn back here so that I don't have to spend, 3 minutes climbing all the way back up. So yeah, so that's pretty much where everything is right now and the state of where everything is. So yeah, it's really early on. There's a lot of stuff to be added. There's a lot of stuff to be improved. There's a lot of stuff to be cleaned up. But yeah, this is basically just a rough draft or proof of concept that I just wanted to get ready for just to have something that I can put into people's hands for the sake of this Kickstarter. But yeah, so the main focus of this whole thing is the tutorials, as I've said a lot of times. I know I sound like a broken record, but yeah, this whole game really is about tutorials, so that's my main focus. So that might be why things are a little bit sloppy at the moment, but I'm going to spend a lot of time cleaning this whole thing up inside and out. Like, I really want the code to be perfect. For the Kickstarter launch, it's not going to be perfect, just because I don't have the time. So that's a huge thing about the Kickstarter, is I just need a lot of time to get this whole thing ready. So I want to make sure the code is perfect. I want to, one of the Kickstarter rewards is going to be early access. I got to decide all the pricing on it. I'm not going to talk about the pricing yet. I want the pricing to all be fair, so I'm going to have to come up with that later. But anyways, one of the reward tiers is going to be early access to the project files. So I'm hoping that that will also help in me making sure that not only will the code be clean, but hopefully I can rewrite and edit the code and make it so that the code practically speaks for itself, so that it's very easy to understand and it makes a lot of sense, so that the code is ready and perfect for a tutorial series. Oh, another thing I should quickly touch on is the story. So the story is pretty rough, kind of just making up as I go, really. And I'm doing that for two reasons. One, just because, well, the story isn't the main focus of this whole thing. The tutorials is the main focus. So I want the story to be lighthearted and simple, but at the same time I also want it to be about the education system. At the same time, I don't want this game to be politically heavy or anything like that. I want it to be lighthearted, but I want it to speak to people like people in high school, and just I want it to be about school just because, I don't know, as something I just chose, like, that'll be the topic of this story because I needed a story. So yeah, anyways, so I decided that the story is going to be the main character, William. And I chose that name mainly because I think that William is going to be a fun name to say in a robotic voice. That's the whole reason behind that. But William is sleepwalking through a day of high school, and he dreams that robots are taking over his school. So depending on what's going on, like whether he's in his math class or English class or just something that's going on in school at the current moment, is going to have an effect on his dreams and what's going on in the game. So it's not going to be one of those stories where at the very end he wakes up and he's like, oh, it was all a dream. Like, you're going to know that it was a dream the entire time. So that's going to be part of the story like that. But yeah, so that's the main premise of the story. Another reason why I wanted it to be about dreams is because I didn't want to have to slow down and think, is this realistic? Or like, oh, I don't think a school would actually look like that. Or why are there moving platforms? It's like, screw it. There's no reason behind anything because it's a dream. That's just the way dreams are. But yeah, so yeah, I guess that's pretty much everything that I want to talk about. And then also, I just wanted to quickly mention about the titles. So I have two title ideas for this game, and I'm going to put them on the screen now. Whoops. I just want everybody to read them first, and because they're kind of weird. Actually, let me move the game so that you can see the titles and read them a little bit more clearly. There we go. That's a little bit better. So yeah, those are the two titles. I'm not sure if people are going to be able to look at those and think, how is that pronounced? So that's another thing I'm kind of curious, is how many of you were able to look at these words and pronounce them correctly just by looking at them. But anyways, so I guess I'll read them now. But anyways, the two words are Educanical and Inbotrination. So I wanted the title to be something fairly short, and also I wanted it to be a made-up word. So the reason for that is basically for the sake of the YouTube titles for the tutorials. I wanted a name for this game and this series that is not a real word, so that when I'm talking about the game and when I'm talking about making the game, there's going to be no confusion if it's a made-up word. And yeah, so those were like, my requirements for a title. So these are two of my favorite combination made-up words that I came up with. Well, actually, somebody else came up with the Inbotrination on Reddit. So thank you for whoever you are. I don't know. But yeah, so Educanical and Inbotrination. So Educanical is actually the combination of the two words education and mechanical. So Educanical. That's pretty much the whole premise behind that, and I just think it sounds cool. Which one sounds better, I think it's going to be up for debate, and I just want to get people's opinion about that. The next word, Inbotrination, comes from the word indoctrination. So this one has a little bit more meaning because this game is going to be, or at least the theme or the idea behind the story of this game is going to be about the flaws of the education system, or at least the flaws of the education system that I went through when I went to high school, because I can't speak for every school around the world. But yeah, indoctrination is a word that I think best, or like, is one word that really describes what's wrong with the education system. So indoctrination basically means to force your thoughts upon somebody else, or to encourage your thoughts or ideas onto somebody else, and to encourage that person to not think for themselves or to come up with their own ideas. So this is really strong within the education system, just because I think that's the main thing that's wrong with the education system, is that it doesn't give any credit to any of the students as far as coming up with their own ideas, or just being original, and they just assume that they know best, end of story. And yeah, so I thought that it had some meaning behind it, and then I threw the word bot in there because robots. So yeah, so that's the explanation behind those two titles. So if you all would like to let me know which one you like better, that would be super helpful. I don't know if that's a thing that a lot of video games do, is let their audience vote on the title. But hey, whatever. I like both of these titles equally, and I can't choose, so I'm going to let you all choose, and I think that should be a pretty effective way of doing things. Hopefully, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so I guess that's pretty much everything that I want to talk about. So thank you for everybody who gives me your opinion on the titles. Thank you in advance for your help on that. And thank you for everybody, and just everybody's interest in the project so far. And I'm really looking forward to launching this Kickstarter. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I want to talk about, probably. If not, I'll talk about it in probably the next update, which will probably be the last update. We're getting really close to getting ready to launch this Kickstarter. Why did I say we? Like, I'm the only one working on this game. So, all right, anyways, I guess until my next episode, I will see you later, and keep making games.